aspects of blockchain here. So starting with an overview, the Securities and Exchange Commission released new trading rules and regulations for cryptocurrencies in 2018, opening further potential for the widespread use of currency in the country. An article by Fintech Singapore outlines no less than 41 crypto businesses currently licensed in the Philippines in April of 2019, and that number is sure to grow in the future. The Philippine Daily Inquirer reported that 2018 brought two major conventions on the blockchain to the Philippines, with the Global Blockchain Summit and the inaugural Blockchain Achievement Exhibition, both taking place in June. The second iteration of Blockchain and Bitcoin conference in the Philippines was also held in October of the same year, showing the slow but steady growth of interest in cryptocurrencies in the country. With respect to finance, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has begun exploring the possibilities of blockchain, stating that it could be used to smooth out some issues with the correspondent banking. The BSP has shown that positive reception to moving more and more transactions to the digital format, and blockchain is one of the many ways it can increase security and efficiency. In addition, the BSP has also approved a project centering around the real-time remittance corridor without a central operator, a process that can be further aided by blockchain technology. In terms of private banking, Union Bank has led the way for cryptocurrency and blockchain use by private institutions in the country. Since 2018, they've launched several internal blockchain applications and plan to release several more to reduce costs. Union Bank has also launched a blockchain system that will aid in connecting rural banks. In terms of business, the blockchain can be especially useful for entrepreneurs. In a country where the majority of licensed businesses tend to be small to medium enterprises, that's a huge deal. Competitions for the best startup concepts that make use of blockchain, as well as hackathons, have been increasing in popularity in recent months. In real estate, the realm of business and finance isn't the only area where blockchain technology seems to shine. In 2018, Business World reported that the launch of a blockchain-powered real estate platform, called Acquire, which seeks to link together real estate properties and transactions in Asia using the technology. This is one way for the Philippines real estate agents to broker and sell to foreign buyers without the need for expensive trips and fees, using smart contract technology for cross-border transactions. In politics, this piece in the Philippine Daily Inquirer also explores the possibilities of using blockchain to verify and confirm electoral results, eliminating chances of fraud and cheating. Smartmatic Philippines in particular has been eyeing the use of the tech to enable clean, fast, and safe elections that allow voters to send in their ballots from the safety of their own homes. While that future may be a little ways off for now, the possibilities are definitely exciting, and it remains a topic to keep an eye on in the succeeding years. Services. The recent spate of water and electricity interruptions over the years have prompted questions about the ways that social services and systems are constructed and provided in the country. Electricity distribution giant Meralco has been eyeing ways in which the use of blockchain technology and AI can be used to increase the efficiency of its services. Meralco has been working to digitize its services and transactions since 2016, and the use of blockchain may be the first in many steps to complete this process. So that's what I have for blockchain. And now I'm going to proceed to discuss D-Logical, the physical commodity digital marketplace, and how it benefits the Filipino people. So traditionally, there have been many pain points in the supply chain. So what we've done and what we'd like to think is that, we've sort of reimagined and reinvented the supply chain here in the Philippines. And so some of the biggest problems here in the Philippines, being an archipelago of 7,107 islands, I think, to be exact, is that the commodity trading has always relied on a manual process. And so, some of the things that are associated with, doing things manually is that there's a lack of transparency. And then another problem is also having limited financial tools and bank clearing cutoffs, which basically cause float and delay in payments. And there are also limited access to logistics providers in a country, again, with 7,107 islands. So Enter DLogical. So DLogical is a fully digital end-to-end solution addressing the key problems of the procurement process in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia soon. So DLogical introduces a truly competitive selection process that will generate the best price in the market. It will also introduce a custom payment solution that it will introduce liquidity for businesses that produce basic commodities. It will also provide businesses access to multiple logistics providers, similar to a ride-hailing service. In addition, we will also be introducing a solution for storage facilities to connect supply and demand using artificial intelligence. So who can benefit from DLogical? Because of the all-pervasive nature of the commodities that are traded on this platform, it actually penetrates all the different industries and sectors in one way, shape, or form. But some of the industries and sectors in which where we already have some traction are construction companies, hospitals, shipping lines, white gas stations, aviation, and interestingly enough, even commodity trading firms. While the platform may seem to be cutting out the middleman, it actually will end up creating a farm league of traders that use the platform to procure for less and sell for profit. And so the way DLogical works, it starts off with an auction for procurement. So you have buyers on one side and sellers on the other. The buyer keys in their order, and then that gets disseminated to all the different suppliers within the ecosystem through notifications. They then key in all of their prices all simultaneously and then send that back. And then a competitive selection process ensues. So another benefit is basically that there's a need-driven timeline to ensure that the commodities are drop shipped on the time that's specified. And there's also a competitive selection process, as I mentioned earlier, automated documents, custom payment solutions, order tracking, and our customers love us as well. At least we'd like to think so. So here are just a few testimonials from some of our happy customers. And so DLogical eventually will evolve into becoming a decentralized platform using blockchain. And so there are basically a lot of very obvious benefits to using blockchain. On the platform by tokenizing some of the commodities. So having asset-backed commodities in the platform, as well as tokenizing private equity to introduce more liquidity for private companies. And so this is the team. That's me there on the left, and my co-founders, of course, JC Caldeo, our CTO and COO, and Joshua Gonzaga, our Chief Business Development Officer, and our advisors on the right. And so here at DLogical, we like to conclude just by saying that we can create a world where demand can meet supply cheaper, faster, and better. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me and giving me the opportunity to present. Thank you.
Thanks, Ara, for sharing your insights within the Philippine market about blockchain and fintech, and also a great case study with your company, DLogical. I think you show and demonstrate how a blockchain can be a benefit for the society as a whole in different segments and across industry. Now let me introduce you to Chenda. So Chenda is based in Cambodia. Chenda Pen. Chenda was the chairman of the Fintech Association. He is the co-founder and CEO of Bongloa, a Southeast Asia-based fintech company focusing on open API for card insurance and digital payment infrastructure. He's currently serving as an advisor to the Cambodia Association of Finance and Technology. Chanda is also passionate by photography. Chanda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ravindra. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is the first time being on this ASEAN Network webinar. So give me a second. I'm going to be sharing my screen. So today I will be talking about the fintech landscape in Cambodia and what's happening here, and give you some insight of what has been going on and also the impact of COVID in 2020. I'll start off by talking about the current status and also the trend that we think that we will see here in 2021 as well. Cambodia is about 16.5 million in population, 51% the females, and the average age is about 25 years of age. The internet users is about 9.7 million people out there. It's a growth about 15% since 2019. I assume that it has been growing ever since. The penetration rate is about 58%. That means over half of the people are on the internet here. In terms of social media user, 9.7 million. Have 2 or 3, as you can see from the mobile penetration rate at about 21.24 millions. So basically, a lot of people here are always on their mobile device. And we have about 300 plus tech startups that's been established here in Cambodia. So during COVID, this is the data that we got from Google and Tamasak and Bain. They did a study for Southeast Asia, and we can actually see the same pattern here in Cambodia. However, one thing that's a little bit different is the transport service. For the call hailing service like Grab, yes, it has been a slowdown. However, we do have these open air tuk-tuks, which we still see a good steady growth as well. Food delivery, on the other hand, has increased and increased dramatically, and I think more so than e-commerce itself. And online travel, as you know, there hasn't been any travel here. That's also impacting Cambodia as well. From the digital financial services side, there has been an acceleration of payments, digital payments, and also remittance. Here with the payment industry, so the Cambodian Association of Finance and Technology, they're an organization that governs all of the payment service institutions. And so within the payment industry here, we have about 1.8 million users or accounts with 21 PSIs as of 2020. But I believe that number has increased to about 25 now. And then in terms of the payment transaction, we have about 8 billion last year. Most of it, majority of it is through transfer or remittance. So the banking sectors, what the banks are doing in terms of this digitalization part, mainly they provide internet banking for personal and business. 41% for personal use, 31% for businesses, and 37% are doing mobile banking. Companies like banks like ABA and Ace Leader has been leading the way in terms of their growth in their digital strategy. I believe now ABA, increased by 5.5%, almost 6%. They've grown about 6x, which is a lot faster than a lot of the banks here. And if you're looking at the banking industry itself, I think we have about 54 commercial banks. And the people leading the way at the moment is actually ABA and Ace Leader. And it's all due to their ease of use of the mobile banking app. Now, the payment market in Cambodia. Right now, we are in conversation and talking about nationalizing the QR code via Bakong. The reason behind that is because, again, is that currently cash is king. As you know, cash can or maybe one of the factors to transfer the virus itself to other people. So the government is really pushing for digital payment at the moment. The other part of the digital payment you see is the closed loop environment. Some of the current players like Wing, even ABA, they have the ABA Pay, which is closed loop. PiPay and all these other guys are all closed loop environments. So there's no interoperability. And this is the reason why our government is pushing this single QR code, which is allowing all of the financial institutions to connect to each other, and we would have our own local QR code that's interoperable between the financial institutions. Therefore, we want to open this up and allow one financial institution to be able to use it at a different institution as well. Also, the National Bank has introduced their Bakong project. You may hear a lot of, on the internet. This Bakong itself is on the Hyperledger Eora infrastructure, which is a blockchain technology. And I believe we're the first to roll out, from a central bank side, to roll out a blockchain as part of this settlement infrastructure. A lot of the financial institutions are connecting to it now, and mostly will be using this for a real-time settlement. But you can also download and use the QR code function as well to do payments or transfer. Now, the question that we all have is that, okay, what are some of the potential partnerships that we can do with, for fintech players like us, like Bang Lui? What can we do with other commercial banks? So we can work with them in terms of providing our infrastructure to help accelerate payments. One idea that we have is basically do what we call a BIN sponsorship, because a lot of these international schemes, you need to have a member. You need to be a member. And for us to be a member, we can be sponsored by one of the commercial banks. What we plan on doing is actually provide the infrastructure layer for the commercial banks and do payment processing through their BIN, but then utilizing our technology. And this would help save the banks a lot of money or initial capital investment. And so a bit about Bang Lui. Bang Lui makes technology friendly by providing the API suite the market needs with our proprietary infrastructure. Best way to do is that we have a sandbox that enables instant access to financial APIs. Once connected, banks, merchants, and consumer can do cross-platform infrastructure. And our biggest selling point is actually built for developers by developers. So what this means is that we make a code very, very easy to use and to implement, and a lot of developers actually understand how our API works. So what we do is we are actually an end-to-end payment stack. We do card issuance. We allow you to issue your own cards. We do co-branding with other organizations. And also we allow you to develop apps on top of that. And then on the other side, we have the ability to do QR code acquiring, e-commerce, and MPOS and POS as well. So our payment stack enables financial institutions to just work with us, and then we do all of the routing and the payment processing through there. And that's pretty much it about Bang Lui, and we hope to answer any questions that you may have, and we hope that through our infrastructures, a lot of the banks here can use and work with us to power the digital economy for Cambodia. Thank you.
Thanks, Chanda, for sharing also your insight on another market, which is quite promising, I think, on the fintech industry, and also in line with the support and the vision of the Cambodian government, who want to be, as you said, a digital economy focused on year 2023. So now our last guest speaker is Mr. Gopal Kiran. Gopal is a director of financial services with Deloitte Southeast Asia, but he's based in Malaysia. Gopal have also unique expertise in digital banking, fintech, cards and payment, digital channels, insurance, and capital markets. Gopal is also a mentor and advisor for several fintech institutions. Gopal, the floor is yours.
You're on mute there, Gopal.
Yeah, I think you need to. Maybe a small technical issue. I think we lost Gopal, but he may join us again. Yeah, that's the progress of the technology. So I think we may be patient, but anyway, for all participants, please start to ask some question to our guest panelists. I think you can instead of perhaps writing on the chat box, you can directly after Gopal presentations. Okay, Gopal is there again. Gopal, can you
Hi,
can you try
I'm
to
back.
speak?
Can you hear me?
Perfect. I think it worked. Yes, perfect.
Hi,
Now
can
you
you hear me?
can introduce your presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Ravi, for the introduction. Apologies, the internet is quite weak in my office today. So, as Ravi has mentioned, I work precisely in the Southeast Asia markets with respect to digital innovation, fintech, help both the banks, insurance companies on and capital market firms on their journey. I also work very closely with the fintech firms on fundraising. I act as a mentor for the fintech and insurtech players in the region and all. So, in the next 10-15 minutes, which I've asked to do, I'll quickly give an overview of what is happening with respect to the fintech, with respect to ASEAN space, and some of the trends what we see in the Malaysia market, where I'm currently sitting from. So I think precisely as every one of you aware here, ASEAN is the future land for all the digital and the latest innovation, or with respect to fintech and all, because of obvious reasons. The number of the population is quite high in the Southeast Asia ASEAN markets. If you look at the internet penetration, the mobile usage, they're increasing every other day, and the corporates are spending and parking their budgets for adoption of technology. And then there's a young millennial digital savvy people, they're increasing. So these are some of the favorable factors for the innovation in the ASEAN space. So the key objectives for some of these players to look at for innovation is how do we reduce the cost and achieve the efficiency? That's one area. And then how do we unlock the new areas of revenue and create revenue opportunities? That's another angle. And how do we acquire a new different customer base? And then how do we keep the cost to acquire a customer low? This is another angle, another pillar which is driving the innovation. And then speed. So these days, if you offer a solution or product to your client, in 60 days or 1 week or 2 weeks, there will be 100 players in the market who will be offering the same thing. So the speed is quite essential. So these are all the primary pillars which we see is driving the innovation. Coming to the snapshot of what's happening with respect to digital in ASEAN space, I've just mentioned the population, I think 647 million, that's a lot. And then if you look at the urbanization is around 50% of the people live in the urban areas, although dominated by big community of people in the rural areas. And then of this ASEAN markets, definitely Indonesia is the biggest market. We cannot ignore the Indonesia market. If some fintech wants to build scale, they have to look at going beyond their home countries to Indonesia or something. And then if you look at the internet penetration, if you look at the CAGR growths, around 53% penetration in the whole ASEAN, which is a good opportunity to use digital as a business model. And then we see this penetration has been increasing by 31% since 2016. So as the social media users, and if you look at the penetration of mobile subscriptions, it is more than the population, meaning one person is holding one or two smart devices or something. So these are all the favorable conditions. And then if you look at the ASEAN space, there are many areas that are being currently disrupted. Blockchain. There's so many things which you are quite familiar with. Of all the areas that are getting disrupted.
Sorry, Gopal, sorry to interrupt you, but can you perhaps, because we didn't see the slides moving, can you please perhaps click on the PowerPoint, and then because we didn't see the slides who are moving.
Oh, I see.
It seems freezed. Yes, now it's better. And can you put please full screen?
Okay, 1 second. Can see now?
Not full size. We only see the slide, but not full size.
So how do I make it to full size?
You have on the bottom. You can see. I think you can put full slide.
I mean, I've already doing.
Yeah, on the bottom here, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've already done that, but I still see.
Okay, never mind. We can follow you. Just perhaps you can just scroll down your slides. Okay, I let you again the floor, and you have 7 more minutes, huh, Gopal? Thank you.
Sure. So of all the fintech players we see in the market, the two areas that are getting disrupted very heavily, which is the payments and lending space, where we see the number of fintech are coming more. In fact, around 60% of the fintech players come from these two space. And if you look at the distribution of the fintech players in the other markets, a majority of them come from Indonesia and Singapore, followed by Malaysia and Philippines. And each of these countries have a regulatory sandbox which is driving innovation. And what we see is each of these countries, they're trying to promote for a specific area. For example, Indonesia is trying to do on marketplaces, alternate lending, mobile payments. Malaysia is trying to promote themselves on Islamic finance, payments, consumer finance. Singapore on the wealth management, alternate lending, payments. Thailand again on blockchain and payments. So each of this country is trying to portray a different area to expertise. And then looking at the payments specifically, where we see the highest growth. These are some of the numbers on the digital payment transaction users that are growing. If you look at Indonesia, the number is quite. I see the slide is not reflecting, but we see around 112 million of the population are using digital payments in Indonesia, followed by the next big countries, Philippines around 34 million, and then Vietnam also, which is going very heavily with respect to digital payments. So coming to Malaysia perspective, we see they are promoting a lot more with respect to Islamic fintech, although there are around some 300 plus fintech players who are trying to work on various areas, be it lending, B2B lending, or payments, or Islamic fintech. In fact, there are around 30 plus Islamic fintech in Malaysia focusing on crowdfunding or blockchain or crypto, alternate exchanges, personal finance management, trading and investment, etc. So if we look at personal finance management and accounting technology. From an overall countries which are attracting the high investment, we see mostly Singapore, Vietnam, and Indonesia stand high, followed by Thailand, Philippines, and Malaysia. So there is some kind of there are leaders and laggers in this whole equation. So, I think if I have to conclude by saying a few things on the ASEAN fintech landscape, we believe fintech is going to be the game changing in the coming few years. The majority of players or the ecosystem are trying to invest in or incubate some of these projects. Even the corporates are trying to work on a lot of POCs and internal projects. Even the executives, the C-level suits are trying to begin to understand the potential challenges instead of just not looking at ROI, and how do we build these solutions and make it as a corporate solution. And then of all the disruptive technologies we see in the market, blockchain and AI as predicted to be having the highest adoption in the next 3 to 5 years. I think following all the global news, we all won't be surprised with that. And we just heard about some of the examples of what Cambodia is doing with respect to blockchain, the Bokong payments, that is interesting. And then all the regulators, as I've mentioned, are embarking on sandbox model, which is a clear sign of promoting innovation. So in overall, we see the Malaysia and ASEAN is a very hotbed for all this latest innovation. So we all need to wait and see how many unicorns more will come in this space. So with that, I thank us again for the opportunity to spend this little time to share some of the insights. Happy to take any questions now or later.
Thank you so much, Gopal, for sharing this time a regional perspective about fintech in ASEAN region. And I do believe that this will be a topic of discussion within the next few years. I think the pandemic has been accelerated these trends, and I think more to come within these few years. So now it's a time to take some question from the floor. I see a question from our participant. Please feel free to answer, because this is not a nominal question. And this question is, how can fintech support financial inclusion, given that people in ASEAN have no access to physical banking?
So maybe I take the question first, and then the fellow colleagues can.
I think we lost Gopal again.
Add more.
Okay,
so maybe
financial
inclusion. People
sorry,
cannot
Gopal,
provide
you're
the
back?
sufficient documentation.
Okay, Gopal, you can start first. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me? So I'm saying financial inclusion is the agenda for many of the fintech players in the region. So some of the common challenges we see in the market, why this people are not under the financial inclusion umbrella, is they don't have the much access points, or they cannot provide the right documentation, or there is no proper algorithm or framework, or how do we do the underwriting or credit scoring. So with all these digital emerging technologies, it really paves way for how we can promote innovative solutions for financial inclusion.
Thanks, Gopal. Ira or Chanda, you want to add a point on that?
Sure. As far as financial inclusion goes, I think the two most noteworthy things to point out really are just, if you have an internet connection, subject to the constraint of having an internet connection and having, a mobile phone, that will enable one to basically be able to participate in, financial inclusion. So if you have like a mobile wallet, for instance, and you have a phone, and you're in a very rural part of the country, for instance, where the traditional brick and mortar banks don't have a branch. This is how fintech can basically introduce inclusion for the masses.
Thank you, Ira.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. I think we're actually seeing some of that happening here in Cambodia, where if you look at the agent network or payment service institutions that I mentioned earlier, they are going out there and creating accounts for a lot of these people in the rural area, and they have the agent where they can go in and put money into the system itself. Once the money is in the system, once they have access via their mobile device, it's just a matter of time when these PSIs or payment service institution figure out a way to build or add other financial services to them. And so you'll see that I think in Cambodia the acceleration of this will grow very rapidly soon. As soon as the other financial institutions open up their business to other fintech players to come in to provide other services for them.
Thank you, Chanda. So I have a question for Ira while we're waiting, perhaps some other question from the participants. So Ira, within your business impact ideological, what kind of impact, social impact, make for the economy and society as a whole?
Sure, and thank you for the question. Yeah, what Logical can do is, from a societal standpoint, is it replaces nepotism with meritocracy, and the reason I say that is because of the reverse auction that is used for the procurement process. So when one is basically, let's say from a government point of view, national government point of view, wanting to procure goods for the national government, instead of appointing particular suppliers that have traditionally been supplying the government over many generations, having an auction process for procurement on a regular basis wherever it's relevant will allow basically many more participants to be able to supply, the government or even the private sector. So that's how it'll benefit. That's how it'll benefit society. As far as the economy goes, I think that Logical can price optimize because of the competitive selection process. It'll also introduce transparency because of the electronic database that captures all of the transactions, and it also will increase efficiency by about 80%. So instead of having to canvas in the past, instead of having to call like suppliers A through Z, now all you have to do is basically with a single click of a button, you transmit that order that then gets disseminated to all of the suppliers all at the same time, and then no more negotiation with each individual supplier has to take place. You just one click of the button, and that's it. And so it'll save about 80%. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ira, for this answer. And we have one more question before we start our networking session for Chanda. So Chanda, from a consumer perspective, what are the best practices to transform Cambodia into a digital economy by 2023?
From a consumer perspective?
Correct.
So I think, we talked a lot about digitalization, and people always say that we don't have the infrastructure. I think the infrastructure is there. I believe Cambodia is about 90% connected. And I think we will have the 5G network rolled out very by this summer. With that said, I think we have to go back to the basics, and that is the businesses need to accept electronic payments. It doesn't matter if you have a mobile, phone to do mobile payments or a credit card. If the merchant is not accepting it, there's no digital payments. And this is where I think we or the government should consider pushing to encourage more businesses to accept this. Once we see that, then I think you'll see the increase of digital payments, and this is what will help drive the digital economy in Cambodia. So I think in terms of, I think we're all ready to do that. We're all ready to use that. And it's just a matter of getting all of these businesses to see that digital payment will help them grow their business. And statistics shows that if businesses were to accept digital payments, the sales would increase about 25%. And I think we need to educate the market about this, and we need to teach them that, this is the future. And I hope that really there's some kind of education within the business here to accept digital payments.
Prioritize, and I do believe knowing a young population, I think that's something will be very positive from this. So before we end the session, we will do a networking sessions that people can gather each other. So it will be around 3 minutes, and then we will end up together this first webinar of the ASEAN network. So today the first one is a Tech for Good series that different topic will be prevail. Tonight is fintech and blockchain, and the next one will be focused on AI, and the third one will be focused on smart cities. Everything is more connected with the fourth industrial revolution. But before we end this first webinar, I really want to thank all participants attending this webinar, and especially to our guest speakers. Thanks Chenda from Cambodia, thanks Ira from Philippines, and thanks Gopal from Malaysia. And take your time, especially on Thursday, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Hong Kong time, and to support that first launch of a webinar ASEAN Network Tech for Good. You can follow her page to have the last update of her events. Her next webinar will be focused on artificial intelligence. Thanks again, and hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet all of you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.